Lizzy Guo. I'm a first-year student at the University of Illinois Chicago studying public health. I am from Dallas, Texas.
Hi, my name is Zoe. I am a sophomore at the College of Worcester in Ohio. I originally am from Texas, and I was adopted from China at 11 months old from Guangxi province.
Hi, I'm Isabelle, and I am in my sophomore year of high school, and currently I'm still living in France.
Hi guys, my name is Cosette Eisenhauer. I am 19 years old. I am a sophomore in college. I live in Texas, and I was adopted from Zhejiang, China when I was 14 months old in 2002.
So from last March to the present, I have experienced some racism. Most of them have been just racist comments and culturally insensitive comments through social media and other cyber platforms. So I have never dealt with someone physically attacking me because of my appearance. So I am very grateful for that.
So I have actually dealt with different racist events since last March. I had a professor he was like, "Oh, I hope none of y'all have come from China lately." Looked around the room, then said it again, and I was the only Asian person in the room, and he made eye contact with me.
To be honest, I haven't heard anything racist going on, especially around me, and especially in school. I haven't been in any racist event or settings that could make me uncomfortable. So I feel like people have been taking more action and consideration on what they say and how they say things, especially since, how COVID has started.
Most of them are from people that I don't personally know. For example, I think it was on my Instagram, someone got into my DMs or something and told me that I looked like Xi Jinping's cousin. I didn't think that was very funny. I thought that was pretty rude because I don't know this person and they just were kind of calling me that. So I didn't really appreciate it, and I didn't think that was funny at all because I am Chinese, but they didn't know that.
So I luckily have not experienced any drastic racist events since last March. One thing that I do think is race related, I'm not 100% sure because it was never any kind of physical or verbal encounter. I was at a Goodwill with one of my friends, and we were in the pants section of the store, and an elderly woman, probably early 60s, kept staring at me, and she then whispered something to her partner, and I wasn't really sure what was being said because of the masks, but the fact that she was staring at me for so long and I was the only one she was staring at definitely made me think it was race related. So I did not appreciate that, and I didn't want to cause a scene because there's a really small Goodwill. Yeah, I just didn't want to cause a scene. I didn't really know what I would say if I were to approach her, so I just kind of left it and let her be.
In Hawaii, when my family went on spring break, we had a vendor actually, it was something about a racist remark towards COVID and towards Asians. I've had people see me in the stores and choose to walk the furthest possible way from me, or just decide to go down to a different aisle and go to the other side just so they don't pass me.
There have been a few times someone has kind of face-to-face said things, or I guess I was there when they said it, but I don't think they meant for me to hear it, because when I first moved to Chicago for school, I went to go get my COVID test. So I was leaving my dorm room. There were two people in the hallway. They were on my age, and they started talking about me, and they used the word chink, and I don't appreciate that word. But for me, I thought it was very offensive and very rude.
Other than that, I luckily have not experienced any kind of extreme racism. I get racist comments all the time as a kid growing up, but since last March, that is pretty much the only big thing that has happened.
I've had people tell me to go back to China. I've had people tell me to find my Asian privilege. Some of it is just more of the like subtle ones that most people don't necessarily realize.
I just kind of turned around and I made eye contact with them. I think they felt guilty that they got caught, not guilty that they said it. It was kind of hard dealing with that my first 2 days of college and not knowing anyone.
People, especially in my school, they've been taking more consideration to what they say and how they say it.
But I have dealt with more racist things, or like I've acknowledged that they're more racist than other things that I've experienced throughout my life.
When I do receive comments like those, I try not to believe them. I just try to mostly tell people, you probably shouldn't say that, it's very rude, very hurtful. And thankfully, since most of them have been comments from the internet and stuff like that, I can just block them and I don't have to deal with them anymore. So
as we know, the events that have been happening towards Asians and towards Asian people, it could be elderlies or just Asians in general, I have been very shocked in a way that it kind of makes me mad in a way.
So, hearing about all of the racist attacks in general, it kind of surprises me, only because of people's reactions to them. Asian American racism has been happening for a really long time, and it was just emphasized in COVID because COVID had to do a lot with the Asian American community. And so I guess I'm just a little confused by so many people acting shocked like it's the first time they're hearing about this.
I think it's been hard. Racism towards anyone is not okay. Asians have the model minority status, and so everyone assumes, oh, you're Asian, you're the model minority, like, be quiet, like, silent your thoughts, like, you're not being, no one's being racist towards you. But in reality, there's a lot of different racism, but it's all like smaller things of racism that most people don't necessarily realize.
As we know, since COVID has started, that a lot of people now have been blaming the Asian community that we have started the virus. And now that they figured out that the COVID started in China, they think now that every Asian person must have it. It's very disrespectful and can be very hurtful, and it can make a lot of people very insecure.
with everything that's been going on with the anti-Asian hate crime, it's hard to process because almost every day I feel like I wake up, I check my email, and I check social media and whatever, and I just see that something else happened, and that's a lot to process.
I think mostly because the Asian American community does not report a lot of these incidences. It's not really seen in their culture as an appropriate thing to report. So I think now that people have begun to report things, everyone who's not Asian American is like, oh my gosh, all of this stuff is happening and I had no idea, even though it has been happening for a while. So I think that's one of my biggest reactions to it.
I think that's the biggest thing now, is that people just don't realize you can be racist towards Asians. That's just not something people know, because it's very common now just to say those sly comments, when in reality it's really racist.
It's unbelievable. I am shocked on how people can just say things just like that without taking consideration to what they're saying. I know though for a fact that in my school they haven't been saying those things, but like apart from outside of my school, I know people are thinking that, and I know that people around the world are still blaming us, saying that we are the virus, as some of you may heard that expression, and how there have been protests where we have been saying to other people just to stop, because what they're doing basically is just unnecessary and it's not fair to us.
Thankfully, I do have the Asian community that I can talk to. I also have friends that are part of the Asian community, so I think that's very helpful.
Another reaction I have is just as to why the people are harassing the Asian American community. It's not going to make COVID go away faster, and it's not going to do anything except hurt people. And everyone is human. Everyone deserves to live their life and do what they want. It shouldn't matter what we look like, where we come from, what language we speak. We're all human, and we all deserve to be treated like a human.
For me personally, as an adoptee, I've completely struggled with the shooting of the man who shot the spas. It's just been really hard to wrap my head around that the people he shot look like me, meanwhile he looks like my adoptive parents. And that's just been really hard for me to like process. Like I don't think I've fully processed that.
I try not to think too much of the sad things, but sometimes you kind of need to have a balance in your life. Personally, I am scared to like leave my house and stuff because of all of that's going on. Thankfully, I don't really have to leave my house, so that's on a positive note. I think remembering the people that were victims of these crimes and the people that did die and the survivors that did survive these attacks and stuff is very important to remember that, and also their families and friends and just people that actually like personally knew them. I think it's very important to remember how they are, how they're feeling.
So I'm just a little confused why people find it necessary to take these extra steps and do that, because it doesn't seem like it's helping the situation and it's actually hurting them. These are people, they have families. So I think that's one of my biggest reactions, is just that it really shows me that people can be this cruel when it's unnecessary. And I think for me, especially being an adoptee growing up in a white Caucasian family, it's a weird balance, because you have to balance out your American identity and your Asian identity. Because if you turn towards your American identity, well, they're the ones that have been harassing people. And then if you turn to your Asian identity, you don't want to be Asian anymore, because then you might get harassed yourself. So it's definitely been this weird balance of, well, now what can I do? Where can I go? Like, what can I identify as that won't get me hurt? And the truth is, it's really hard to find an identity that people accept. Unless you're a white, cisgender, straight male, it is very hard to feel accepted in American society.
It's made me more nervous also of like going out to stores by myself, just because it's like Asians kind of have that target now. We have to be more careful going places because we just don't know what's gonna happen. But I think overall, like, you can be racist towards Asians no matter what. Like, the microaggression of, oh, you should be good at math, you're Asian. Like, that is completely racist, and most people don't think that's racist at all, but it completely is.
On the positive side, you see people from different communities, different cultures, different races or ethnicities, and just different backgrounds standing up for the Asian community. I think that it's very nice to be able to see people putting aside their differences and just like sticking up for each other.
So I think that's been a very interesting thing, is just from an adoptee standpoint, especially because I wasn't born here. So, you know, luckily I have not gotten any comments of like, go back to your country, but I know people who have. And yeah, I think it's just this weird dynamic of, you know, we are immigrants, we weren't born here, but we have family who was. And now the families that are supposed to take in these children from China and love them and look after them are the ones hurting people from China. So it's almost like your own family is hurting you in a way.
One thing that I have learned from the pandemic was that it really made me think of the things that I'm grateful for. It really made me start thinking of my family, how my life is going right now, and I figured out that I am really grateful, and I think a lot of other people can say for themselves that they're grateful as well, because this pandemic has really made people think about what they're grateful for.
I think the biggest thing I've learned, which doesn't necessarily go with all the racism stuff, but it's you know who your friends are at the end of the pandemic. I had people that I completely thought were my friends completely 100% backstab me in the back during the pandemic, and it just really showed me that they weren't necessarily friends that are really there for me through the darkest times. It's just been really hard with that.
I think one of the biggest things that I've learned throughout this pandemic is to just not take things for granted and to be grateful for everything you have. I was put into the hospital in July, August, and I had a procedure done on my leg where I was kind of confined to my bed. It hurt to walk to the bathroom. It took me forever to actually walk normally again, so that definitely aided in, not to take things for granted. Don't take for granted the fact that you can walk on two legs, or the fact that you can run, or dance, or skip, or all of these other things, because there are people who can't. And I was one of those people for a while where I couldn't do anything. I couldn't move. All I could do was lay in a bed or sit up. Anything else I tried to do hurt.
I don't know if this is advice or anything, but one takeaway, I guess, is with all the bad that's happening in the world, just try and focus on something positive or something that makes you happy. Because there's a lot going on, and I mean, just thinking of something that makes you happy can help you get through this. Or talking to people is one of the best things, just to help you decompress or remove yourself a little bit, just so you don't fall into a deep depression.
I am really grateful that my family is in good condition, good health, and that I still have my loved ones around me, and that I am still lucky to have a home, and that at least for now nothing bad is happening, because I know that other people, they're having a really difficult time in their lives, and that they either lost their loved ones or they have just a really bad settings at home and they have to stay there and they can't go elsewhere. It really made me think, saying like how grateful I am to be in a good situation.
So definitely never taking the small things for granted, like being able to see your family. I wasn't allowed visitors in the hospital, and it was lonely. I spent 19 days there by myself. The only people I saw were medical people. And this pandemic has also taught me not to take for granted seeing my family, because we weren't able to celebrate Thanksgiving or Christmas with them, and I was away from my friends for 10 months straight. So just don't take for granted the people you see and when you do get to see them, because a lot of that got taken away.
Also, find your community and find people that relate to you, and find people that won't belittle your thoughts. Because that's another thing as being Asian, is that many people just belittle your thoughts, or they tell you to oh, just be quiet, wait your turn, but never give us a turn.
I'm also just grateful for all of the small things we have, like being able to go out to a restaurant, being able to enjoy outside, and picking up new hobbies, and being able to spend more time with my family. I loved that I was able to spend more time with my family. Yes, they did get on my nerves sometimes, but what family doesn't get on your nerves? So I definitely have learned not to take the small things for granted. I am a lot more grateful than I was for the things that I have, because so many families have suffered much worse than I have, and I have been really lucky and fortunate to have had a experience during this pandemic that did not affect me very well. Very badly. So definitely don't take the things that you have for granted. One last thing I would like to share with everyone is just to remember to be kind and, do what Jesus taught us, and love your enemies and love your neighbors. And everyone is human. Everyone deserves to be treated the same and equally, and it shouldn't matter where we come from or what we look like. And just to spread more love. I actually did a speech at a Stop Asian Hate march, so I just want to read a small part of my speech for you.
That life isn't all bad, that life also has good parts, even though a lot of the time right now, especially right now, just try and do something that makes you smile. To just remember that with the bad, there comes good. So I think just having a balance of that is great.
It's going to be really weird to think about in the future if this pandemic goes away. I don't think anytime soon it will, but it'll be very weird that we would be wearing no masks. I don't know, it just makes me think about it and think about oh wow, that's gonna be really weird.
So one of the big things that I wanted to kind of let people take away is that Everything starts with what we're taught and what we teach others and how we behave and how we think. And I encourage you all to educate yourselves, talk to people in marginalized communities, not just the Asian community, the Latinx community, the Jewish community, the Muslim community, the Black community. We all matter just the same. We are all equal. We're not comparing oppression. We are not trying to compete with one another about who has it worse in America. We all have something we can learn from each other in order to make a community and make that safe space where everyone feels wanted and everyone feels loved. So please have conversations with people. They are meant to be uncomfortable. If they're not uncomfortable, well, then you're not having the right conversation, because these are very tough topics to talk about.
Just be kind to each other. You don't know what anyone else is going through. There's been so many people that have lost loved ones during all of this. There's people that have dealt with loss of friends, they've lost jobs. There's so many people losing things, whether it's a family member, if it's a thing, if it's an animal, their job, like money or anything. Like, people are losing things, and the nicest thing you can do is just be nice to someone. I don't understand why it's so hard right now in this world to be nice to someone, but it's very obvious that a lot of people cannot be nice to each other, and I just really wish people would be nice to each other, because it could honestly just change the world a lot more.
I just wish that this virus will soon go away, well, hopefully, and that everyone just respects the rules and regulations of what the community guidelines, what the governments have been trying to say. Just wear your masks, keep distance, and be safe. And think about the others that might be in risk of health issues.
And now I would like to share a quote from Mother Teresa, and also what I said in my speech, which is, "I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the waters to create many ripples." So remember that our stone starts here. It starts this year. It starts with how we move forward from this point on. Watching this video won't do much. We have to actually take the action and do something and start a change, start the ripple effect. It's going to take a long time, and it's going to take all of us working together. But if we all come together and we love each other, we can actually create change. It's amazing what people can do when they come together. So please take your stone and toss it in the river, and let's start creating these ripples, and let's start creating change so that no one ever has to feel unsafe or unwelcomed or feel fearful or like they don't belong. So please spread love, not hate, and start that ripple effect.